ना. Professor Bera?
Hello.
Professor Bera,
Huh.
have you given me the access for presentation? My screen is not coming.
Hello.
My screen is not coming. Whenever I am trying to present, it
Yes,
is
sir.
not showing. It is not showing the PPT file or PDF files, which I have opened already.
Huh?
Presentation mode is given.
Yes, sir.
Presentation mode is given because it is not coming. Otherwise, let me see again. Let me enter.
Sir, one time I think you are tried. That time that presentation is I am showing.
No,
I am seeing
what
that
presentation?
presentation.
Which presentation?
Your presentation that
PPT file. PPT file.
yeah.
Hmm? Just let me just check once more.
Yes, sir.
Is it entire screen or what?
No, just fast skin.
Hmm? Which one I have to choose? Entire screen or window or Chrome tab?
Windows,
Maybe
sir.
whatever.
Hmm?
So go for the window, please.
Now it is coming. Now I think it is coming. Right? Can you view it?
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
Okay, okay,
It's visible, sir.
okay. I have stopped it.
अरे आवाज चले गया
No, I have stopped it. That's fine.
Okay, sir. Okay, sir.
Hello everyone, we'll be starting our session in just 5 minutes. Hello everyone. I think we are good to go. Am I audible to everyone?
Yes, sir.
Yes, sir.
Okay. Good afternoon everyone. So IIT Kharagpur, one of the premier institutes in India, which is a dream of every fellow student. So was mine. From producing personalities like Sundar Pichai, CEO Google, to many Padma Shri like Professor Kiran Seth, everyone knows such personalities. The main driving force for the success of any institute is its teachers and the students, and so is of IIT Kharagpur. So today we have with us Professor Adhijit Goswami, professor in the mathematics department of IIT Kharagpur. Professor Goswami received his PhD in mathematics from Jadavpur University. He has authored over 105 papers in international journals and conferences. His research interests include cryptography and network security, inventory management under fuzzy environment, optimization, database system, distributed and object-oriented databases, and data binding. So today, he will be presenting a session on managing your supply chain in new normal. Over to you, sir.
Thank you. Initially, let me thank the organizers of NIT Agartala for giving me the opportunity to give a presentation. I think I am audible.
Yes, sir.
Yes, sir. Loud and clear, sir.
Just a minute, let me make the, some problem is coming in presentation. Whether is it visible?
No, sir.
Hmm?
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
I think
Visible,
it's-
sir.
Visible, visible. Sir.
It's visible.
Today just I am going to talk a general thing, not anything of my research, but some review kind of thing. What the others have done, I could not do many things this time. But many other people has done lot of work in supply chain during this COVID-19 period, during the lockdown period, during new normal. Let me discuss certain points on that. That is the reason I've given the title of the topic as Managing Your Supply Chain in New Normal. Basically, if you see, for any supply chain, you have the manufacturer from there, you have warehouse, distributor, freight station, depot, retailer, and ultimately it is coming to the customer, and the different kind of users are available over there. So once a commodity is coming to the end user, to me, before that, it is going through different phases, which is very clear from this particular picture. Now, due to this COVID-19 outbreak, which are being felt more strongly with every passing day. Despite the unprecedented steps and cumulative efforts taken by the government, business and individuals to stem its growth, the virus continues to rampage unchecked across the globe, of course causing the loss of life and hitting business across the industries and verticals. From the starting period of lockdown up to June, I am saying, nearly 70% of the companies reported supply chain disruption in one form or other due to coronavirus-related transportation restrictions. Please note this, coronavirus-related transportation restrictions. Over 50% of the companies also reported experiencing sudden unexpected delays in receiving the orders. They have given the orders for various items, but more than 50% of the companies has reported that they did not receive the order in time so that they can deliver the product in time. Let's see the impact of COVID-19 on global supply chain. I will talk about the few of them. The first one is manufacturing industry. Manufacturing today is a far complex process with subcomponents required to assemble a single final product, which is sourced from several places across the globe. The raw materials required to manufacture these subcomponents come from different countries and continents, and the finished and semi-finished goods will then be required to be transported all over the world. So effectively, it is not that raw material is coming only from West Bengal, Tripura, or within India, but from anywhere of our country, from other countries also, we may receive raw material or we are sending raw materials. And similarly, the finished or semi-finished products or goods has to be transported to various parts of the world. This massive dependency upon the logistic makes import, manufacturing, and export a difficult proposition in case of disruption to the supply chain. So India, as an example, India imports well over half of its active pharmaceutical ingredients from China. But between the India government selectively restricting these pharmaceutical ingredients import and the logistic challenges created by COVID-19, India's pharmaceutical industry is finding it difficult to maintain its export numbers. This is true. From data, it has been shown. Considering that India is the biggest supplier of the generic medicine worldwide, this could very easily lead to a global shortage. The next part of supply chain is procurement. If you see, at the other side of the coin lies the procurement challenge for the sourcing organization. Procuring medical goods, just I am talking in terms of COVID-19, on an emergency basis, such as mask, PPE, respirator, hospital beds, ventilators, oxygen cylinders, ambulances, these are very critical. We have to procure in emergency basis. In a globally integrated world, a drive towards efficiency has caused an increasing consolidation of production in lower cost geos, primarily based in China, Taiwan, Vietnam, and other low cost economies. I want to say nowadays people are exporting materials wherever it gets it cheaper. And in terms of China, Taiwan, Vietnam, in certain terms, India also is procuring or different kind of materials in very low cost. So therefore, whenever this kind of pandemic occurs, to get the material from other countries becomes very difficult. With the pandemic started in China and hitting countries across the globe, and the resultant fallout and shortages, the need of distributing risks has become more evident than ever. That means people has to rethink if this kind of pandemic occurs, if this kind of lockdown occurs, how to manufacture, how to procure. Third part of the supply chain is distribution. Distribution of products is facing some unique challenges, such as staffing of warehouse, a need for direct distribution, and more intelligent and responsive allocation across channels. So, your storage in warehouse and how to do direct distribution more intelligently using some digital platform that has to be thought of. Retailing is also being impacted in a peculiar way. Why I am saying peculiar way, it will be known. The lockdown and curfew scenario across the world had led to a unique situation where there is demand as far as essential commodities are concerned. Please note, there is demand as far as essential commodities are concerned, or subdued demand in some niche areas. but big challenges in the luxury item segment, and we are likely to see several retailers will shut down their shops, with many others will be severely challenged on operating margins and models. So effectively what happened during this pandemic, even now in the new lockdown, if you see, there is demand of essential commodities and some demand in some niche area. But for luxury items, there was no demand. Just I was saying yesterday itself, for the car market for the last month, this time it has gone up around 10%. Of course, which is much more lower than compared to the previous year during this time. So that is a major challenge for the luxury items and this. On the consumer side, if you think, hoarding or stocking of essential commodities and over-the-counter medicines has led to unusual stress on the supply chain. It is not unusual for customer to panic, stock food and other essential commodities during time of crisis. While this leads to stress, if stockpiling goes beyond a few weeks, it is natural for customers to be anxious about the availability and resort to this kind of behavior. These unnatural spikes in demand and the required supply fluctuations are extremely difficult to handle and together create a bullwhip effect in the entire supply chain, often leading to artificial shortages. So it is common phenomena, even if in our household, initially at least for 1 month to 2 months, we were thinking, let me stock the essential items, groceries and other things, so that if markets are shut down or if nothing is available in the market, we can survive. Actually, in the last week itself, I was giving a lecture at Bharat Chamber of Commerce, where with me there was divisional manager of ITC, local head from Eastern region. He was saying he has seen a peculiar pattern. The items which were essentially required in a month, say 50 units, sometimes he has seen that during this lockdown period, especially initial for first 3 months, the requirement was almost 3 times, 4 times. Means they are not able to deliver the essential items, although they feel that that is not required by the customers at all. So they are stockpiling it. And raw materials. To receive the raw materials, initially government told that only essential commodities are will be allowed to move around or will be allowed to transport. He was saying, okay, I am getting wheat, I am getting rice. Initially, those were also not essential commodities. Now, once I have finished, I am receiving a finished product, I have to wrap it. So it was extremely difficult to explain the government or people that this wrapper, whatever is required for doing the wrapping, that also falls under essential commodity. So he told we faced a lot of trouble due to this thing. So you can imagine what kind of problem actually people has faced during this thing. So please note that the manufacturing, what I told initially, manufacturing, then procurement, then distribution, these are 3 important things. Now, post-COVID on new lockdown, the brave new digital world. Actually, to overcome all these things, everyone feels that we have to think now in totally different way. The way we were thinking previously, it may not work at all. Let's see some of the few points which came in our mind. We have jotted down. Like from an industry perspective, the current situation is likely to accelerate digital transformation initiatives. for business across the globe as they are forced to face their weakness and vulnerabilities. So effectively everyone feels now that we have to go for digital transformation initiatives. Therefore, technology-led business models will emerge as more critical and important than ever and will play a key role in defining strategy as we reimagine the global supply chain of tomorrow. Please note this point. Actually, our research also, I think, will be, we have to rethink our research items on which thing we should do research. Because now people are saying technology-based business model will emerge as a more critical and important. There is an urgent need to reduce dependency on physical labor across transportation, logistics, and warehousing. That means as far as possible, you try to reduce dependency on physical labor. Whatever you can do through digital platform, try to do it as far as possible. Quote, digital technologies for Industry 4.0. Please note again, like IoT, Internet of Things, blockchain, control tower, artificial intelligence, machine learning enabled demand forecasting, rule-based and self-adjusting stock allocation, autonomous devices such as AGV and drones will be very, very essential thing in the next page or in the new normal. That is, whenever we are talking about all these things for Industry 4.0, we have to use rather IoT, blockchain, control tower, AI, machine learning enabled demand forecasting, rule-based and self-adjusting stock allocation, even if for supply of commodities to the end user, AGV or drone will be required. I will give one example later. Businesses are going to pay a lot of attention to making critical systems available on the cloud so that they can remotely accessed by employees as they work from home. That means whatever data is available, instead of keeping it in the personal computer or in the system of one company, people are saying, let's put it in the cloud, because cloud is much cheaper also now, which can be accessed very easily and employees can access it and work from home. Because we have observed that in certain cases, the accessibility of data was also a problem. One of the few positives of COVID-19 scenario has been exposing us to the possibility of remote working across industries. Please note, possibility of remote working across industries, domain and business, and if sustained in the post-COVID world, this trend will lead to a renewed focus on environmental friendly operating principle. Just like, just for example, it may not true for all industries, but especially for IT companies, just like Microsoft has already told its employees, at least for next 6 to 8 months, they will work from home. So, as or where it is necessary, then only physical presence will be required. Otherwise, they will try to make physical presence as far as possible. They will try to reduce this thing. Now, what are the key elements crucial in supply chain of tomorrow? One is intelligent procurement. To help organizations understand where or when to source using advanced machine learning algorithms based on past purchase, commodity pricing, agro and industrial trends, among others. So effectively, we have to gather data and we will, using the advanced machine learning algorithms, we have to develop new algorithms which will analyze the data and give the organization the basic idea that when to source using this thing. Here source means basically I want to say that from where you are procuring your raw material. Usually in normal cases in industries, mostly they have one point source. That means they were taking raw material from usually from one source because it helps them to reduce the price as well as there is a dependency. But now the industries are feeling that source cannot be a single source, but they have to make actually multiple channels so that if one source fails to deliver the raw material from other source, they can procure it. So all these things, they will analyze it using different kind of machine learning algorithms, which will be used later. And here, researcher will play a vital role, especially those who have the mathematics and computer science background. I think really they will do well in this particular direction. The next point is supply chain control tower. A single source of truth from sourcing to delivery for all trading partners to see and adapt to changing demand and supply scenarios across the world. That is a centralized hub containing all the technology, organizational tools, and processes need to capture data from all stages of supply chain, from manufacturer to the customer. That means a tower they will form, where in the tower they will process, they will capture all data from every stage, starting from manufacturer, whatever data they have, till consumer, what kind of a trend they have. So up to this, if you can capture the data and if you analyze the data properly, you can predict properly that how I can help in this pandemic situation. That only we are saying in the next point, supply chain data management with intelligent automation and analytics. End-to-end information management taking the form of data vault of sorts to capture supply chain transactions accurately with high consistency and minimum redundancy. So redundancy will be removed and the consistency of the data has to be much higher. This will help the supply chain organizations gather insights around supplier performance, supply chain diagnostic, market intelligence, and risk management. Again, I will come to this risk management again. So these are the basic parameters we say that supplier performance, supply chain diagnostics, that of the chain, which portion may break or more vulnerable, then the market intelligence, and of course, at last, the risk management. The next point is supplier risk management. Risk management helps organizations to model cost structures, trend performance data, and visibility to extend value chain to keep abreast of any supply disruption and secure capacity. So basically, if any supply disruption can occur, how to manage that position situation, that is basically they are saying risk management. This could help companies avoid sudden disruption in supply chain and deal with lack of information, something that many major global companies face. Here basically disruption means effectively whenever if you are taking the raw material, you have to see the lifetime also of the raw material. Because you cannot keep the raw material infinite number of days or like that. Should I continue? Any question, anything? If anyone has any question in between, they can ask me. Should I continue?
Yes, sir. Please continue.
Then the next one is supply chain simulation. Modeling new supply chain strategies based on business or operating model change, current and or future supply or demand or logistic constraints. So we have to model new supply chain strategies based on the operating model changes, current or future supply, demand, or logistic constraints. This will help to validate and identify the best cost-efficient network to achieve necessary service level across the value chain. I will explain it with one example. This one is impact of COVID-19 on logistics system and disruption in food supply chain. Let me see the other part. What is the economic impact of COVID-19? What has happened? Since the outbreak of coronavirus or COVID-19, one of the intricate issues is to estimate the expected damage of human health and global economy. And it becomes much more complicated while considering individual parts of the world. So effectively,
Sorry to interrupt you, sir.
yes,
Sorry,
sir.
sir. Sir, could you please present again?
It is
Actually,
stopped.
someone is already presenting.
Hello.
Hello. Could
Yes.
you please present again, sir, your slides?
Why?
Because
It has been stopped?
someone interrupt in between.
Oh. So I have stopped sharing.
Yeah, you can share again, sir.
If I am right, then it's Pinko's Devnath, I think. Please be conscious about that. We are having a seminar, so please be conscious.
Dipanjana, switch off your microphone.
Everyone else, please switch off your microphone. It's interrupting our webinar. Please switch off your microphone.
Okay, is it coming?
Yes, sir.
Yes, sir, it's visible.
So earlier slide was not visible or?
No, yes, visible, sir.
Okay, now it is visible, right?
Yes, yes.
Okay. So what I was saying, what is the economic impact of this COVID-19? So since the outbreak of this COVID-19, one of the intricate issue is to estimate the expected damage of human health and the global economy. I think these two are most important because every day you are seeing what is the death rate in India. Effectively, it is increasing, and the economy. Let us see what happens there. The International Labour Organization or ILO reported an initial estimate that almost 25 million jobs would be lost worldwide due to COVID-19, and it may stretch up to 40 million. So 25 million to 40 million people will lose job due to COVID-19. In a recent report released by the Confederation of Indian Industry, CII, 50% of the CEOs opine that 30 to 40% of employees will lose their job in India. Please note this. 30 to 40% of the employees will lose their job in India. In India, approximately 500 million people rely on agriculture and its related activities that contribute approximately 15% of the GDP of the country. So 500 people rely on agricultural and its related activities, which was halted like anything, and which contributes 15% of the GDP of the country. And now you can understand why the GDP has gone down and it will further go down. So the effect is really havoc. The food distribution system has severely affected during lockdown because of unavailability of laborers and truck operators. Severe impacts has been observed in different sectors in the perspective of job loss as well as financial crisis because of constrained demand and supply of various items. The MSME sector, effectively MSME sector means the micro, small, medium enterprise, I want to say, but because we categorize into two sectors. One is MSME, micro, small, medium enterprise. Another one is LE, that is large enterprise. Now, MSME sector is the backbone of the country's economy. That we have to understand that this micro, small and medium enterprise, if they are working, then only the expenditure will go up and our GDP will go up. But unfortunately, this MSME sector is one of the worst affected sector during this COVID-19. Therefore, inclusive manufacturing system can be a suitable way to empower the MSMEs units that will help in enhancing the integration with adoption of emerging technologies. So basically we want to say now, these manufacturing systems has to be coupled with MSMEs with the emerging new digital technologies. Furthermore, during a lockdown, all the non-essential travels nationally, internationally were banned throughout the world to restrain the spread of COVID-19, and such restrictions harshly affected the aviation sector. But of course, we all know it. But there is a other side also. Just like for this conference, if we were physically present, what would have been the expenditure? So that is another point, of course, because there is no alternative of physical interaction always, as we are seeing for the online teaching also. We all are teaching online, but we actually don't able to understand what is the response of the other side, means student side, how far they can take or they are taking it. That is another drawback. Another concerning issue faced is regarding food supply. Demand in the food sector have been changed for various food items because of varying nature and disruptions in delivery platform. Means certain items, commodities were not available or some are not taking it. So the demand of different food items have been changed suddenly. In such a difficult time of pandemic, developing a resilient supply chain, please note this term, because I think researcher will work on this term from now onwards very seriously. Developing a resilient supply chain is one of the essential steps for survival of manufacturing and as well as logistic business to fulfill customer needs. So what is this resilient? Before that, let me just quickly tell you what is the supply chain performance during the disruption. We coined two terms. One we say time to recover. What is time to recover? The time for a node or region in the supply chain to return to full functionality after a disruption. That we say time to recover. And another term is coined, which we call as time to survive. The maximum duration that the supply chain can match supply with the demand after a node disruption. That means whenever there is a disruption in a node or region, till what time or how much time they can provide the supply to the end user, that we call time to survive. So obviously, If time to recover is less than time to survive, then supply will never be disrupted. Whereas if time to recover is greater than time to survive, then it is simply shut down situation. Whereas if both are equal, then it should be expedite. Just go on. Now this resilience. What is the meaning of resilience? Various researchers have given various definitions of resilience. The popular one is resilience is defined as the ability of a system to return to its original state or a more favorable condition after being disturbed. So please note this thing. Resilience is defined as the ability of a system to return to its original state or more favorable condition after being disturbed. So when disturbance occur, after disturbance occur, how soon you will come back to your original state or near original state, that we call as resilience. Some other researcher has defined it as supply chain resilience is the supply chain's ability to be prepared for unexpected risk events, responding and recovering quickly to the potential disruptions to return to its original situation. So it's almost similar. The coining of words are different. The basic meaning of resilience is when a disruption occurs, when or how fast I should come back to my original state or more favorable state. Actually, this is a computer coined term also. Whenever there is a disruption in your machine, how fast I can recover from that. That also we say a kind of resilience. So basically, we have to develop some resilience system so that even if there is a disturbance, I should try to come back to my original state as early as possible. So what are the steps for creating resilient supply chain? Effectively, there are 4 steps we say. One is identify risks. Identify the most relevant event, because that is more important. The most relevant events and risks threatening to disrupt the company's supply chain operations. That is, the events or the points which can threat to disrupt the company's supply chain, that you have to identify first. So this we are saying identify risks. The second step is define scenarios. What is the meaning? Define possible outcome scenarios and assess their high-level impact. Prioritize the risks according to magnitude of impact. So effectively, try to like this way, there will be different outcome scenarios and there will be the impact. If this happens, that can happen, that will be the impact like this way. Now, depending upon your magnitude of the risks, you have to tell which risk is highest, which is after that, like that way. You will give the priority to the risks. And once you have prioritized your risks, then the third step will be you have to develop the strategies that how to overcome the risks. So here only we are writing develop response strategies for prioritized risks. It is essential to create an unbiased process to decide where to invest and how to prepare. Where to invest means where to give to what. Effectively, we want to say that thing. And here one term is used, unbiased process. Please note this one. And number 4 is incorporate decision. That is, incorporate the decision making and planning process as per the need of the supply chain risk management. That is, effectively, 4th step is how you will implement this thing. So these are the 4 steps for resilient supply chain. So what should be the strategies? The strategies should be, first one is resilience. under which the points will come: logistic visibility, control tower, factory analytics. I'm not going details of this. The next will be coming design and optimization, network design and optimization, multi-echelon inventory, transportation planning and optimization. So here actually the job of mathematicians will come over here. The integrated planning, third strategy will be integrated planning. That is, we plan sometimes separately for demand, for supply, for production, but now we are saying you plan integrated way because you have the entire data with you over here. So in integrated planning, you have to plan for the demand, that is demand planning, supply planning, production planning and scheduling. And of course, whatever plan you do, ultimately you have to execute it. So the last step is execution, that is transportation management, warehouse management, and the global trade management. So to overcome the disruptive situation, effectively we can say the manufacturing system and supply chain should be sustainable, agile, and resilient for performing better and efficiently. So please note that to overcome the disruptive situation, the manufacturing system and supply chain should be sustainable, agile, and resilient by performing better and efficiently. So during pandemic, if you see, I have given the 4 layers here. If you see, in 4 layers are together connected with the LEs, large enterprise in one side or companies. In the other side, you have the MSMEs, that is micro, small, medium enterprise. So survival of human being effectively depends on the essential items during the pandemic. So during this COVID item, that is the reason we are saying the crucial items will be like raw material, the logistic service, how you can provide it, and the crucial resource, that is employees who will work for it. Just like the people who are in 24-hour service or who are on emergency services, like that. So that we are saying as the crucial resource, and under which we have the employees, we have raw materials, and we have logistics. The next layer would be the priority of all countries, of course, is on to save human lives, but a shortage of essential items like your food, medicine, diagnostic equipment, clinical cure items or PPE has topped the fight against infection. So we are saying that under essential items, these will be very much required at the beginning. For this case, at least PPE, food grain, which I am talking as PDS, diagnostic equipment, perishable food items, clinical cure, and medicine, like this. The third area is the primary sectors. What are the primary sectors? Which have to work together, which are, of course, agriculture is coming first, healthcare, aviation, railway, and the FMCG, that is fast moving consumer goods, that is also required. These are the primary sector. And of course, in the post lockdown period, the sector which shows in the outer circle, which we are saying that economic booster, because of their large contribution in the GDP and employment generation. So that is the reason we have given some different automobiles like hospitality, construction, information technology, automobile, and textile. and a linkage is provided with MSME and LEs because of their involvement with all these sectors. They have involvement. So initially we had this crucial resource. After that we have to think about the essential items. Then we have to slowly go for the primary sectors and then the economy boosters, which has been done slowly at our country also. So the key strategy to avoid human-to-human transmission of COVID-19 infection are via social distancing and use of masks as well as sanitizer. Of course, the global shortage of ventilation and PPE with the increase in infection that has happened across the world. In India, we require so many things, that's fine. But we have seen one thing. Automotive manufacturers are shifted towards making the medical equipments to meet such enormous demand. Because they don't have their own demand of materials. So they switch to other production of other things like ventilator, testing kit, oxygen cylinders are being produced by automobile manufacturer, or PPE, masks, gloves, hospital furnishing products are made by textile industry, fashion industry, and like that. Now, quarantine and isolation are the primary prevention used to break human-to-human transmission, as declared by NCDC, that is National Center for Disease Control. During quarantine, a concerning issue was how to deliver essential items. Now we are trying to give some solutions, which has happened during that time, so that next time if this kind of thing happens, how to overcome this. So during quarantine, a concerning issue of delivery of essential items in severely affected zones has been observed, especially when people stay in high-rise buildings. For that, one solution is a truck-drone synchronized delivery system can be employed in highly infected regions, as it helps in maintaining the social distance, also drastically reduce the delivery time to fulfill the demand. One of the systems we were thinking like this: for supply of food chain, one delivery truck may have two types of drones. This may actually a prototype, so it can be increased or decreased. Drone A is committed for food items, whereas drone B is committed for medicines only, but it is not essential. Now, there are various customers, C1, C2, C3, C4, C6, like this. So, as per the requirement, drones will will supply the commodities at the top of the rooftop of these particular buildings. And of course, for a particular customer, two drones also can supply. And by this way, what happens, you are reducing the social distancing and also human contact, you are reducing the time. So effectively what happens in a supply chain network of a public distribution system, if I think about the government, those for the poor people when government try to help them. During this, you have the food procurement is available during this, which is this we are showing as a grain market or mandi. From the mandi, basically, they are procuring items at minimum support price. It is going to the centralized warehouse. From there, it is going to the state warehouse. From state warehouse, it will go to the district level warehouse. And from there, it may go to some fair price shop, or which you can say as ration shop type of things. And maintaining social distance, customers will take ultimately the commodities. For this, so all types of food supply chains were affected. So due to this, we are using this grain market, central warehouse, state warehouse, district level warehouse, and fair price shop or ration shop. And during this lockdown, several types of concern related to transportation service, absence of loading and unloading labor, or shutdown of offices were faced. And facility failure is caused due to high infection in some areas, difficulty to achieve the desired purpose of supply chain because of uncertainties in vehicle availability and labor shortage was also there. Disruption of mitigation role of backup facility in the food supply chain during pandemic is crucial. So what we wanted to say here, we have the CW, central warehouse, district warehouse, state warehouse, like this way, so many points are there. So we can develop a centralized simulated network system we can develop of our own using certain algorithm for public distribution system, and which will tell you how to collect the raw material from mandi, how to come it to the central warehouse, what would be the direction. This type kind of network, always we can, simulated network, we can prepare it. Now just we made a sample collection and we did a simulation with the software any logistics. This is available. Some trucks has been given, what are the capacities, what are the speeds are given, how many warehouse, state warehouse, central state warehouse, district warehouse, like that. What is the run length, number of replication, like these various units we have used. And we considered three different scenarios. Scenario 1 is normal operation of PDS. Scenario 2 is PDS network during shutdown of a facing in pandemic. And scenario 3 is backup facility to attend required service level during disruption. Means normal operation means when it is a normal case. During shutdown, that is scenario 2. And scenario 3 is if I have backup facility, then what is the effect? That only these three type of scenarios were considered. And we made a simulation on expected lead time service level. So the ELT service level for, we have seen it only for two items, one for rice, another for wheat. Scenario 1 is the normal scenario. Scenario 2 is when there is a shutdown. And scenario 3 is when we have the backup to counter the shutdown. That only I want to say. I have not discussed what mathematics we have used for backup these things, the shutdown. So, because that will be too high. Just I wanted to give you some idea. What we got, again, this is a rough thing. 93% we are seeing in the, for rice expected level, whereas for scenario 2, when there is a shutdown, it has come down to 59%. And whereas for scenario 3, if we have backup, it has gone up to 85%. For wheat also, similar thing has been observed. So what we want to say is that if you have the proper backup mechanism for the shutdown cases, this kind of shutdown cases, then your recovery time will be much more easier. And we have checked on this 4, the revenue and total cost also. Revenue, total cost, profit, and average transportation cost also. And similar observation, we have seen that if you have the proper resilient system, that is with proper backup system, so that whenever there is a shutdown or there is a problem, disruption, how fast you can come back to the near normal position. So if there is some backup, you will come back to this. So I think I have taken a lot of time. It's almost 3:55. So thank you very much. If you have any question, anything, I'm ready to answer.
Thank you, sir. So we are now opening the session. So anyone interested, please respond. You can use the chat box or you can turn on your mic. We'll have in 10 minutes session.
Actually, to be very frank, problem is we don't find the response because whenever we did talk physically, at least by seeing the faces, we can understand whether you liked it, you enjoyed it or not. But now it is really difficult.
So I think there is no questions. So there are no questions. I'm just waiting for a minute. Just if there is any question, please write it in the chat box or turn on your mic.
Can I ask here without writing in chat box, Prasanjit?
Obviously, ma'am. Okay.
Professor Goswami, I have a question. I have a question. How should we handle deteriorating items?
How should we?
Handle deteriorating items in such pandemics.
Actually, this is really a problematic situation. As I told you, on the earlier day, same topics we were talking, that
Yeah.
all the companies, they are really scared, especially about the perishable items, how much to bring in. Means they also were telling us that, sir, why not you are doing some kind of research for especially for this type of things. And they promised us to provide me at least to give some data. Because I told unless we are getting the proper data, it will be very difficult. Just
Yeah.
hypothetically working is very useless. If I get really a set of good data, a large amount of data, I can analyze it and I think we can develop something. So that is really a tricky question. I also don't have the direct answer of this.
Okay, okay. Because that was creating a huge chaos.
Yes.
Because dairy products, bakery products, they are highly deteriorating and how to handle. I'm talking from Amul dairy point of view, which we have in Gujarat, and
Yes.
they were facing a huge problem.
Right. That is, even if you see the for small scale, those who are selling fruits, they are
Yeah.
purchasing from other place and fruits. They are also not sure how much they can sell because sometimes people are coming, sometimes people are not coming at all. They are at a fix.
Uncertainty, complete uncertainty.
Yes, total uncertainty. Maybe we have to develop instead of fuzzy some other new concept. some new theory has to come up, I think.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. Okay. Thank you, sir.
Thank you.
Okay, I think we are done with the question session. Okay, thank you, sir. By this, we have come to the last session of today by Professor Nita Isha from Gujarat University. Professor Nita received her PhD in statistics from Gujarat University. She is postdoctoral visiting research fellow of University of New Brunswick, Canada. Professor Nita's research interests include inventory modeling in supply chain, robotic modeling, mathematical modeling of infectious diseases, image processing, and dynamical system and its applications. Professor Nita has completed over 3 UGC-sponsored products and has published over 13 monographs, 5 textbooks, and 475 plus peer-reviewed research papers. Today, she will be presenting a session on mathematical model for domestic violence during lockdown due to pandemic COVID-19. Over to you, ma'am.
Ma'am, please unmute.
Ma'am, I would request you to please unmute. Thank you, ma'am.
Now, can you see my screen?
Yes, ma'am, visible, ma'am.
Okay. Okay. Thank you. First, let me thank NIT Agartala for providing me a spot to have some deliberation which we carried out in this pandemic time. Professor Goswami said about the economy and good number of things during lockdown, what was faced by all over the world from December 19, 2019. But what happened at the home? Okay, during lockdown, we all were forced to be at home, and we observed some negative impact at home also. So in this presentation, I'm defining a mathematical model for domestic violence during lockdown due to pandemic COVID-19. This domestic violence during lockdown, because all of us were forced to be at home, and in Gujarat we have observed 20% domestic violence during this lockdown, and even the worst cases has happened, in fact, all over the India. The coronavirus, now technically we call it a COVID-19, spreading had its inception in November 2019. But also it is said that it was not November 2019 or December 2019, but it started in September during the army march in Wuhan city of China. And we came to know about this in March 2020, as it was declared as a pandemic by WHO. In the initial stage, it has now already infected over 5 million people. Now maybe much more than, because this is during lockdown phase, leading to the lockdown of countries of almost 194 countries around the world, and a hold on global as well as national travel across the globe, even interstate. the problem of domestic violence is a national issue. It is not only during this lockdown we have observed, but in this, it is a national issue for each and every country. And also it is not limited to one or the other area. It even doesn't have a bifurcation of level of person or level of the family, maybe lower middle class, or upper middle class, or rich people. Several programs have been initiated in the country to help to reduce violence against women and children, such as the passage of the domestic violence bill. But all these are based on empirical evidence. Its prevalence rate is still high because most of the time it is observed that this domestic violence are not getting reported with the police, and it goes to the extreme stage. So on paper, it may be much less, but if you see it, actually, this prevalence rate is too high. And maybe a main reason may be poverty, at least in India. Lockdown led to frustration of the earning member. So now we are coming to domestic violence during lockdown and why it has occurred. So it is because of frustration of the earning member, financial constraint to satisfy needs of the family members. Frustration can be in terms of inability of an earning member, and he may be under stress that how I will able to manage my needs of my family members. Constrained floor space of the residential area. If we are working people and everybody goes in morning by 9 o'clock or between 9 to 11 and comes back by 6 o'clock, then nobody might have felt about the floor space which a particular has as a residential area. Then even discontinuity in the business. Professor Goswami already said about the aviation. That is because it was travel was banned interstate, inter-country, and even international. And we have observed this discontinuity in business during aviation and small-scale industry at a higher rate. And they had to opt for the new jobs. But this has, for some time, that is for 51 days up to lockdown 4, this had gave them a frustration. Then if you are a working person, obviously this lockdown had given us a fear of losing a job and many more. And now fear of losing a job has also two strategies. Like day before yesterday, PayPal declared work from home from for March 2021. Microsoft did it for just day before yesterday. Infosys did it in August. So everybody is saying now work from home. So those officials who are on the top side, they are very much less feared about losing a job. But have you think of what will happen to peons, clerks? Okay, so this lockdown had created fear of losing a job, and there are many more issues. If you just sit and think about, you will come to know about there are thousands and thousands of reasons which gave frustration to the earning member of the family, and this resulted in domestic violence. And who are the victims? Most of the time, victims are women, children, disabled, and senior citizens. No doubt these are just few to name, but all family members are suffering in terms of having one or the other way of domestic violence when they are staying together for all 24 hours and 51 days. So what we are planning here to develop a model for domestic violence during lockdown due to COVID-19. But obviously, this domestic violence will not stay forever. It will get reduced, and so we are also define stability. That is when it will get stabilized in the future. That is what is the post-COVID phase, and not only post-COVID phase, but also the normal phase when domestic violence will decrease. So now here we are having a modeling domestic violence using differential equations. Mathematics can't go without differential equations, because all this situations which we are working on is dynamical in system, and the base tool is differential equations to visualize. Then we will solve this by both analytic techniques, and also we will validate it by numerical simulation. In this study, we try to develop a differential equation model that will be used to predict the growth of domestic violence during lockdown. This is during lockdown, but we observed that after lockdown, that is the post-COVID-19 phase with which we are going away with at this point of time, it is what is the growth of this domestic violence that has been predicted at the end. It will also help us to have the systematic basis to monitor trends and rates in prevalence and its outcomes. Now, these outcomes are very severe, up to suicide. Not only frustration, not only depression, not only violence in between family members, but also somewhere we found ultimate outcome as the suicide. And that may be because of less tolerance what we have at present. It will contribute to an increased awareness of the players. Now, players here means anybody of the family members, because we are talking about domestic one. So awareness of the families, awareness of the players in the society about understanding and experiences of domestic violence. And in future, we are also trying to work on who are the external players who can help us to see or to reduce this domestic violence. Obviously, one will have a response as we should go for the psychiatric treatment, or we should go for outing, we should go for the medical treatment. But at present, we are not supposed to go out as far as possible. That is, we are under restricted movement. So we need to work out on it, and we are working on it. According to Gulls and Straits, violence is an act carried out with the intention of perceived intention of physically hurting another person. So this is what has been defined. And it can also be defined as the exercise of power in order to impose one's will on a person or to have one's will with a thing. That is, if I want to get something done, I may follow violence route and get the work done. So that is what we say, that exercise of power in order to impose one's will on a person or to have one's will with a thing. And according to Caesar, domestic violence is a leading cause of injury and death to any human and worldwide. So it is not restricted to one regional, but it is happening worldwide. It is often ignored or even condoned by the state on the ground that are private matter. It is family matter or private matter. So I should not go to police and talk about domestic violence that I had faced. Okay. So domestic violence is considered to be a tool of power used to sustain particular family and household structures. Here, it is important to note that common perception of domestic violence is It is the violence inflicted by a family member. That is what main thrust area during this lockdown period. So we will be talking about violence inflicted by a family member. Then Dr. John A. Liddell modified this definition as any physical, visual, verbal, or sexual act that is experienced by the person at the time or later as a threat, invasion, or assault that has the effect of hurting. So domestic violence doesn't mean only hurting somebody or fighting with somebody. It can be verbally, it can be visually, and that hurts somebody, or disregarding or removing the ability to control one's own behavior. Why this has occurred? So if somebody cannot control own behavior or an interaction, whether this be within the workplace, the home, on the street, or in any area of the community, or one can say in the society. Now, what are the causes of domestic violence? According to Kaskak, 1999, there are varieties of causes to domestic violence. And they are categorized broadly as verbal alteration that can escalate into violent behavior. And this we have observed a lot. Financial issues that can lead to disagreement and violence, which had actually happened during this lockdown period, because 51 days is not a small period. And offensive conduct, sometimes offensive conduct. But we will be concentrating mainly on financial issues that created disagreement and violence at home. Modeling is one of the way by which formulae are used or deduced to solve a real life situation, occurrence, or a problem. The aim of every model is not to produce exactly the copy of real object. I don't have to produce exactly, carbon copy of the what is going on, but to give a representation of some aspects of the real thing. Model building is not only predictive, but can also be descriptive. And the important thing for one to remember is the less complicated the system and the more information available, the greater the likelihood of a successful model. So model should be as simple as possible, but it should be as informative as possible. That is, I should able to extract informations or outputs or results, and that is what is we call it a successful model. It can be referred as a formula used by mathematicians to predict or give informations about the future value or effect of any interacting object or items. So now by this I mean that obviously this COVID-19 pandemic is not going to stay with us for a longer time. This longer time doesn't mean that it will go away within a few months. It may be for 2 years, for 3 years, till vaccine or medicine comes up. But my model should be such that I should able to predict or give some information that what will happen in future if such pandemic comes back. And let us hope that such pandemic will never come back in our life, but we never know. Every mathematical model follows simple assumptions or some basic principles. The first step is to clearly state the assumptions which are relevant to the model. That is the first and foremost concept of development of the mathematical model. It usually describes the relationship among the quantities to be studied. Quantities here means variables and the constants. The second step involves completely describing the variables and parameters to be used in the model. And last step is to use the assumptions formulated in step 1 to derive the equations. Because being a mathematician, we will say equations, but one can say relationships also, relating the quantities worked out in step 2. And quantities in every model may fall into 3 basic categories. We will have dependent variable, independent variable, and some constant parameters. These parameters may be constant or dynamical in nature. Malthusian model was the first one, and according to him, an elementary model of population growth is based on the assumption that rate of growth of population is proportional to the size of the population. And that is what we do even in defining compound interest. Whatever you say, whatever you put in bank, interest will be compounded. This is similar, that rate of growth of the population is proportional to the size of the population. That means the rate of change of a population depends only on the size of the population and nothing else. But this is not a right one. We know there are a good number of components, good number of variables on which size of the population depends. But this was the first simplest model, and the quantities evolving from the assumptions are as follows. We want an independent variable. So say T time is the independent variable. Population P is dependent variable. And alpha, because we say Malthusian model says that it is proportional. So alpha is proportionality constant between the rate of growth of the population and the size of the population. So simply what I can say that if rate of change of population, I write it as dp by dt, it is proportional to population, so we'll have alpha p. Simple differential equation, first order, and everybody knows if I assume P0 to be the initial population, then solution of this differential equation, that is rate of change of population, is proportional to the population, that is size of the population, is P of t is equal to P0 into e raised to alpha t. Now, according to this Malthusian model, an elementary model of population growth is based on the assumption the rate of growth of population is proportional to the size of the population. I said in the previous slide also. This implies that the rate of change of population depends only on the size of population and nothing else. But I don't want to do that. And second part says, because we got the solution, P of t is equal to P0 e raised to alpha t. So solution says that exponential functions come into play in a situation in which the rate at which some quantity grows or decays is proportional to the quantity present, because we said into t, that e raised to alpha t and p naught. Now here, let us have our own model. Let us have independent variable as t, total population as n, V stands for individuals, that is group of individuals, or class, generally we call it a room of individuals who had undergone domestic violence. And in my case, it is dependent variable. And alpha is constant of proportionality between the rate of growth of population and the size of the population of violent victims. Now here, the rate of growth of population we have considered as, suppose there are 10 family members with assumption that 3 are staying at home, being a senior citizen, and then as and when lockdown is getting strict, more and more family members are entering into the room. So that is the rate of growth of the population and size of the population of violent victims. So alpha tells us how fast the population of victim of domestic violence is changing at any given population level. It could be positive or negative. If family members are going for a job, it will turn out to be negative. But if more and more family members are entering into the room by restriction of lockdown, it will turn out to be positive. That is what it says. If alpha is positive, it means the population of victims is increasing, and if it is negative, population of victims is decreasing. So I have based on this, what I will be having that rate of growth of population of domestic violence victims will be dV by dt equal to alpha times n, that is total population, into number of victims. So with simple calculation, we have V of t, that is domestic violence. Domestic violent victims at any instant of time t is given by V0 into e raised to alpha n into t. This model also looks like exponential model, and but because of exponential, one can say that model represents exponential growth without limit. No, that is not a permissible thing. Obviously, pandemic has to go, so we need to have some limit. We will do that. However, during lockdown, due to pandemic, we need to consider environmental factors, foods, drugs, law, that is litigation, education, and many more. And education has been taken because children are also part of domestic violence victims in terms of they have to stay at home, they have to go for online education, even if they don't understand, that also is considered to be domestic violence. So I chose this model in order to start from the simplest model, and based on it, try to involve some more factors step by step, coming close to describing the actual situation. First one is logistic growth model, where we will have susceptible or abusive individuals at time t, and we will represent it as S of t. And domestic violence victim at any instant of time t, labeled as V of t, and total population size is n. So those who have some knowledge of modeling in infectious disease or epidemiology, they will be able to understand it in a nice manner, that I have divided my total population into two groups, that is susceptible or domestic. The second one is domestic violent victim at any point of time t. My assumptions are population size is large and constant. So obviously this is considering deterministic model. No birth, death, immigration or emigration. Obviously neither of these things were possible except death. But it has been assumed that we all kept our senses quite strong, that we remain safe. So we could not be victim of COVID-19. So death was not there. Obviously, immigration is not possible. Was not possible at that point of time because movement was restricted, and there is no question of immigration. Nobody here don't consider immigration and emigration in terms of its actual term. It's only in terms of domestic. No recovery, homogeneous mixing. That is, we are considering heterogeneous groups, and groups are considered as senior citizens, disabled, men, women, children. Violence spread rate is proportional to the number of domestic victims, and that is beta times V. So beta is a constant taken at what rate. So here we have this model. Simply because there was no death, no birth, nothing enters. So we have rate of change of susceptibles or abusive population as negative of beta Vt into St. And what happens in the victim case? They all are susceptible, or they all are likely to have domestic violence victims. So dV by dt. It seems to be a very simple model. And when population is considered, then we have dV by dt to be beta times Bt into n minus Vt. First one was about the open population, while the second, that is this one, sorry, just a minute. What I said, second part, dV by dt is equal to beta Vt into n minus Vt, it's closed form. And we have particularly concentrated on closed form. The first derivative will be 0 at n, that is quite obvious from the differential equation. Also, there are in fact solutions to the differential equations. One can find a equilibrium solution, because when you have a system of differential equation, you can find a solution by assuming that there is no change, and we get equilibrium solutions. If we start with a population of 0, that is, there is no domestic violence in the first lockdown period, there is no growth, and the population stays at 0. So we all in fact enjoyed first 21 days of lockdown by doing good number of activities with family members. If we start with a population in the range that is domestic violence victim lies between 0 and n, then from the differential equation, v dash t is greater than 0, that because we said beta times vt into n minus vt. And that says that if we derivative, first derivative is non-negative, our analysis result says that violence will increase. So after 21 days, that is second lockdown, might have increased lockdown. That is what this differential equation says. And we observed also. Now here, if we start at number of domestic violence at any instant of time t equal to n, the population stays at this level. Okay, because we are talking about the closed population. Similarly, if we start with v greater than n, then v dash t is less than 0. And obviously, when the derivative, that is rate of change of violence is decreasing, that means violence is also decreasing. So here in figure, one can see this. That is the arrow mark says that solution is towards the equilibrium n, and hence the solution is stable, while the equilibrium at 0 is unstable. Yeah, it is unstable. According to this model, if the number of victims of domestic violence is above 0, it will go to carrying capacity, and that is capital N eventually, because we are working with a closed model. Then violence epidemic model, here we assume that victims are restricted. Only few victims are there. And also we assume that committing of the domestic violence occurs mostly within a high-risk population group, such as man, women, and children. Besides domestic violence victims who are at the end stage of domestic violence infraction are strictly isolated from abusive. Now, when you isolate, that means either you stop talking to him or you stop arguing with him at present in lockdown period and susceptible population. Therefore, there won't be any more drastic violence. So that is what it says. They no longer cause any form of violence. So here we have assumptions that particular population is at high risk to domestic violence by contact only. The population is uniformly mixed. So we are talking about heterogeneous population. So the probability of a person being a victim of domestic violence equally exists to every single individual within the community. This community here means family members or a particular family. Once victims are classified into domestic violence victims, they are no longer engaged in the spread of the violence. Okay, so we will, in this case, during lockdown, this no longer engaged means we will not go into argument, any hot arguments. There are no subtractions of the population except for violence-induced death. So this is extreme case. We will not be taking into picture. For the domestic violence victim model, consider a group of susceptible individuals, and therefore a number of susceptible individuals are introduced into a large susceptible population. And the infected individuals develop themselves into a group of domestic violent victims and the end stage of violence. So they go to the extreme stage. the population of each group will change respect to time while the violence progresses. So this is how it looks like. So here I have a physics rule, or one can say chemistry rule, that is the change of the population as a mass balance idea. And what is mass balance idea? Rate of change in domestic violence population will be equal to the difference between the population growth and population loss. Loss doesn't mean death and growth doesn't mean any entry, only among family members. So here we have the model. Abusive group, susceptible, and reported domestic violence victims. And they are moving with certain rate, that is mu, alpha, beta, and delta. That is mu is recruitment rate, that is at what rate individual family member is getting abusive. Then whether they are, it may happen that they don't do it for a longer time. So susceptible, they move to susceptible class, and it is unreported victim rate. Okay, sometimes we do ignore it. So that is what alpha stands for. Beta is a conversion rate when the susceptible gets domestic violence or domestic violence victim. And delta is violence induced death rate. This is extreme case and very low. So I can have the, because it is dynamical system, it is moving on. So I can define differential equation for each room. Rate of change of abusive, rate of change of susceptible, and rate of change of domestic violence victim. We have the system of differential equation with 3 dimensions, obviously non-linear, because if you see here, it is A, right hand side of the term, A into S, that is those abusive who turns out to be, who reports. Okay? So you have non-linear term. A non-linear 3-dimensional system. The system has inhomogeneous equations because of recruitment rate mu per unit time to the abusive class. And as a result, the total population will not be constant like the previous model. The term is much like a forcing term, which often arises from an external force in a physical application. If some neighbor comes and gives some command, so that is what has been considered as a forcing term or the external force, because neighbor was supposed to interact. There was no problem with it. So this is how it looks like. In this figure, we have 2 dimensions with abusive and susceptible. Okay, so there is no change in the population of the abusive individual, and that is what vertical line says. And the susceptible, an unreported victim of domestic violence, because both of them are that is you can say rectangular hyperbola. However, this is not quite enough information to predict the behavior of the violence. We need to know whether the equilibrium is stable or unstable. Here we do have one equilibrium point. We had 2 equilibrium points, but one was without violence, and that was not the focus of this particular research. So we are considering only one where both occurs, that is there is domestic violence, and that is given by beta by alpha and mu by beta. Now I want to check whether this equilibrium point is stable or not. And to determine the stability of endemic point, this is called endemic point because it is interior point that we are having some domestic violence. So it's endemic point, and I can define its stability by taking Jacobian matrix. The Jacobian matrix can be obtained using a good number of computational steps, which one can find in any infectious disease model. This is what I got. Minus alpha mu by beta, minus beta, alpha mu by beta, and 0. Now, if you look at the eigenvalues of this matrix, we can determine the stability of the original nonlinear system at the equilibrium point. And this implies the original nonlinear system, that is the main model or the first model, would behave like the linearized system at the equilibrium. And the eigenvectors of this Jacobian matrix are quite trivial, that is minus alpha mu by beta. And that says that domestic violence has happened during lockdown period. And this is how it looks like. So here we have plotted the system nodal sink at equilibrium point. Sink is red color, and this implies it is between A and S. This implies that the system have the behavior of exponential decay because it goes up to the sink itself, decay at the equilibrium, which is asymptotically stable. So every solution of the system, it is only one solution, will approach to the stable equilibrium point as t goes to infinity, and infinity means when this pandemic will die out. May not be completely, because even if we talk about malaria, malaria is not gone, but it is stable. Okay? So that is what this figure says. Now here we have domestic violence. Violence on y-axis. The behavior of the domestic violence spread says that, and it has been done from the eigenvalues have complex parts along with a negative real part. And if eigenvalues has negative real part, it says that the system forms a spiral sink at the equilibrium that one can see. You have a red point as a nodal point, and you can see the spirals. Here are the spirals. Okay, that means the system have a certain form of oscillation behavior at equilibrium. But one can also think of it says oscillation, that is, it continues again and again. But it is good point that it is not going into the chaos. Okay? Chaos in the sense it is not spreading in the whole family. So still it is safe. And this oscillation may be with one family member or two family members or some family members, one can say. So, but its solution still moves to stable direction, because one can say that everything is getting down to the, everything is getting into the sink nodal point. In other words, the system behaves in a damp oscillatory manner with a certain period determined by the parameters, and these parameters are at what rate recruitment is entering, that is how many, what is the rate at which abusive individuals are increasing and they are getting towards the domestic violence. And so one can also think of that it will get damped if we involve family members into number of constructive activities, and there are good number of constructive activities one can think of at home, and many we have observed also, and many we exercise also. So at the last, to reduce domestic violence in pandemic and consequent scenario, self-control can be of importance. So be a self-tolerant, that is what it says, without getting panic. The pandemic will dissolve at some point of time, but till then, lead a happy and healthy life. That is what is from my end. Any questions? Yes, questions are welcome, sir.
So now we can have the question session. So if anyone having any question, please put it up.
Yeah, one question, I'm reading it from the chat. It is by Ashwin Rota. How to know the spiral nature of the stability graph from eigenvalue without plotting the graph? Spiral nature, one cannot think of, one cannot have only through eigenvalues. You will have to plot the graph, that is, you will have to work out from the simulation, which will say that whether it is spiral or whether it is periodic or not. Graph is needed. Okay, I don't think we basic book for modeling from Smita. See, it varies from modeling to modeling. If you want to go with the infectious disease, you can refer to the literature available on epidemiological modeling. Okay. So I have not followed any book, but I'm just going through the basic knowledge which is required in epidemiology, and then we are applying in our cases, whatever model we are starting with. Please explain more about how to obtain Jacobian matrix. Okay, Jacobian matrix is actually it consists of two components. What is the newly recruited and how many are derived? Okay, it consists of two matrices F and V. F is how many are newly recruited, that is at what rate newly recruited occurs, and the V is at what rate derived ones are getting suffer. And then you have to find it. Then you have to find out its derivative and use f of V inverse. So obviously V should be non-singular matrix. And from that, the highest eigenvalue, that is called the spectral radius of FV inverse, gives you Jacobian matrix at particular equilibrium point. Jacobian. And next question is suggest good book for this and stability behavior. For stability behavior, good. I don't remember exactly, but you can use Ruth Harvey's criteria. Lecture notes is available in Google. It is of 52 pages. You will get a good idea about how to go for the stability. Sinu said share PPT. Sinu, Sinu, this paper is under review. As soon as it will get published or accepted, when it is available online, I will share it with Professor Bera and he can pass it on to you. Somebody is having question, but in this case, of course, I don't follow what case say is talking about.
Okay, I think we can now close the session, or we are taking the last question that how effective is the use of masks in controlling COVID-19?
Okay, next question is how can we get, sir? Yes, sir. How effective is use of mask to control COVID-19? Okay, now for this question, you can refer to my paper published in International Journal of Mathematics and Mathematical Sciences. You can have the full length paper from Hindavi. Okay, just put Nita Shah and you'll get the full paper. And it says it is quite effective. Not only mask, social distancing. Paper is about the control strategies to curtail the transmission of COVID-19. International Journal of Mathematics and Mathematical Sciences, Hindavi.
Thank you, ma'am.
Okay.
So, your presentation was very educational because in my state also, in Tripura also, we have a hike of 94% in case of domestic violence. So surely it was very, and it was like 1 month ago, I think I read a news in the Indian Express about Gujarat, Ahmedabad, actually. So there was a domestic violence case in context of a simple Ludo game which is played in the mobile. So the man thrashed his wife in context of losing in that game. So yes, this is the issue in this pandemic. And ma'am, thank you for this
Not only,
presentation.
Prasanjit sir, not only game, it was also about the food, which wife prepares, and if family member doesn't like, then also there was domestic violence. Okay.
Yeah.
Everybody will
There's a psychological point of view.
abusing.
We are out of our psychological point, means well-being also.
Yeah, yeah, agreed, agreed.
Okay, thank you, ma'am. Now we'll end our whole session. Today's webinar has come to an end, and we'll now go with our national anthem, and we'll finish this day one of the webinar. Hope to see you all on day two of the webinar tomorrow. Tomorrow there will have Dr. Bishwajit Sarkar from Insai Institute and Dr. Jagi from Delhi University. So hope to see you all tomorrow also. So now we'll have the national anthem. Thank you all.